I love it. As a intelligence officer, what are the qualities that a man or woman has to make them a really successful intelligence officer? What do you think? You've known a lot of them over the years, I'm sure. Like, what's the main common denominator that you see with them?
I would say, great question. I have never been asked that. I would say that for me, I want somebody to always question the prevailing
Yep.
narrative and hypothesis. That comes with the territory of being a critical thinker. You
Hmm.
always have to look at it. This is should be always the case. Always come up with alternative ideas to
Hmm.
explain something, because when you do that, it's called the first thing you got to do is hypothesis generation. So you have a question in mind, right? And you're like, how do I explain that? What's the answer to this particular question? And when you don't have the full evidence, you have to come up with different
Yep.
hypotheses or different ideas or theories, right? The
Yep.
more theories you can place in the collective and then be able to pull evidence to start to then refute a piece of evidence, or excuse me, a hypothesis, just by virtue of going through that process, you now have the collective potentially of what has occurred, so that when you're starting to see things and indicators, you can automatically say and start to put it and apply it towards a hypothesis. We call it like analysis of competing hypotheses. But I
Hmm.
think the default needs to be you're focused on disproving
Yep.
what people think to be true. And when you exhaust your resources and everything that where you can't disprove it, then the chances that that is the answer increases,
Hmm.
and that starts to mitigate your biases. And you got to understand. I mean, people need to understand where their biases are. My biases are, you can tell what I look like, my background, my military. Like, I get it. Everyone has bias. I have bias. But the way you mitigate that is you're constantly consuming information
Hmm.
across all spectrums. And you need to apply necessary credibility to each piece of information. Because if you just take a piece of information as it is, you're going to get duped. You always have to be critical.